terrorists that have been tormenting residents in the villages of Tangaza and Gudu local councils. They said the Lakurawa terrorists have been wreaking havoc on members of various villages in the two local councils of Tangaza and Gudu and called on the government for help. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Air Force NAF says the air component of Operation Adinkai OPHK has destroyed major terrorist enclave used as a training ground in Bukar Meram on the southern flank of the Lake Chad region, Borno. This is contained in a statement by the Director of Public Relations and Information NAF Air Commodore Ehimen Ejodame in Abuja. Ejodame said the operation was conducted on Monday following credible intelligence on the plan by the terrorists to attack Marte and Monguno communities. According to him, the airstrikes resulted in the neutralization of several terrorists as well as the destruction of key logistics infrastructure, including supply vehicles, weapons, storage sites, and makeshift shelters. He said battle damage assessment confirmed that the strike effectively disrupted imminent threats posed to the communities by the Marte and Monguno, reinforcing NAF's proactive posture in safeguarding civilian populations and critical territories. He reaffirmed that NAF remains resolute in its mandate to protect the sovereignty of the nation and ensure lasting peace and security across the Northeast and beyond. You are currently listening to the World News at 12 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll head into the news analysis segment. If you're just tuning in, this is the World News at 12 on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We're joined by Chukuma Okoro, a broadcaster and a current affairs analyst, here to analyze the news update for us. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Solomon. My pleasure.
Now let's start with the Miriam Abacha's statement where he saying no evidence to pinpoint the fact that former late General Sani Abacha stashed public funds, asking where are the evidence? Are there any iota to her statement? Iota of truth, as a matter of fact.
Well, Solomon, it's a very difficult question, and it's as difficult as it is easy to the extent that you see the what I see in Nigeria, what I see happening in Nigeria is that because we have what is called collective amnesia, people always take Nigerians for granted. So I think it's an insult, to the sensibility of Nigerians
and to the intelligence of Nigerians, actually.
For Miriam Abacha to come and say that there is no evidence that her husband, late General Sani Abacha, stashed Nigeria's current monies abroad. It's quite belittling of her personality to say that, because I don't know where she's thinking from. I don't know what she's thinking about, because we have senior government officials, who have traveled on taxpayer money to Switzerland, to other parts of the country, to sign off monies known as Abacha loot. So those
billions and billions of them, as a matter of
fact, for
the
past 30 years, that have been coming to Nigeria. So does it look like those people were on a jamboree, or were we not told in this country that series of billion of this from the US, from Switzerland in particular, from parts of, safe havens outside the shores of this country. And those monies have been recovered, some of them put into infrastructure, like we were told, that...
Exactly, we were told. I was about to say that.
Exactly the point. And for me, it is even... What Miriam Abacha said isn't my problem. My problem is that you and I, Nigerians, even people in government, understand that, look, monies have been recovered. But my concern as an individual, as a Nigerian, is how much of these monies have been relooted? That's the major problem. How much of these monies have been relooted?
And that brings us to my next question, because some weeks ago, about less than 2 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, governors cried out that the monies in several billions of dollars of money that have been brought under the guise of the Abacha loot have not been distributed freely, that most of them say they've not been given to them, that the federal government, I think there's a court file to that effect, that the federal government put them into a particular coffers where only the federal government is using. Now the point is, there are no paper to show that, okay, these so billions of naira that have been brought in under the Abacha loot, these and these and these are what we've used it for.
That is the problem. When you talk about having papers, does it look like the Federal Ministry of Finance Incorporated doesn't have those papers? Does it look like the Central Bank of Nigeria doesn't have those papers? Solomon, that is the problem we are dealing with in this country. How is it that something happens and all of a sudden we are looking for records? Does it look like if you go to Federal Ministry of Finance that you won't have documents that says, look, certain amount of money was recovered at so and so timeline, and this is what the money was used to do, milestones. You know, we use it to construct. Okay, like we've always been told that we are going to, anytime money is recovered, they tell us that, look, we are going to set this money, up for infrastructure development. Where are those infrastructure? At least if you look back, if you talk about the Petroleum Trust Fund under the same Abacha, monies that, excess crude fund, that a certain amount of tax from oil revenue was put into the Petroleum Trust Fund and put under the care of former head of state and former President General Muhammad Buhari. And I saw, as a youth growing up, as a young adult, I saw roads, even in my own community, roads that were constructed with the PTF money. In my state, in my community, in Lagos, in other parts of the country. So why is it difficult that during the civilian regime, we are unable to trace how much that has been recovered from Abacha, and what we did with all those monies? And
when you also consider the fact that the federal government keep borrowing billions of
Solomon,
of
you don't even go there, because if you talk about borrowing, a lot of Nigerians already have headache because of the borrowed monies. And meanwhile, why are we still borrowing when we were told that we are going to remove fuel subsidy because so much has been sunk into that unduly, and that a certain group of people were profiteering from it? So if you have removed subsidy and all those savings, what are you doing with those monies? And we are still borrowing. Look at the budget of 2025, deficit financing of about 3.7 trillion naira. So, and we are told that customs, FIRS surpassed their targets in terms of revenue generation. So what do we do with all those money? Month after month, week after week, the president keeps submitting requests for loan approvals to the National Assembly. That's why I said, let us not even go there. I'm concerned that Miriam Abacha said something. He said, my husband saved money for Nigeria. So what happened to those monies when he died?
This has nothing to do with the looting.
With the looting. She said, saved money. And Obasa just said something too about Abdusalami Abubakar not accounting for monies, and we have these people walk the streets of Nigeria free. They even fly on presidential jet to go and represent Nigeria outside
without any repercussion.
No consequences for actions. So governments after that, how have they been able to fight corruption? So it's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. You don't even know where to start from.
And that's actually what's given her the effrontery to even come out and speak out, because you guys said my husband stole billions of naira, and you guys have taken some of them. Where are the evidence of this money?
Beyond that, even after Abacha died, how much more have been stolen? How much more have been stolen between 1999 and 2025?
In other words, one person stealing billions of dollars is equivalent to like 50 people stealing billions of dollars too. So they're still stealing. The only problem is then it's probably just fewer people that
No,
were looting.
Nigerians, even my child in high school understands clearly that, look, Nigeria is more like a crime scene when you talk about leaders stealing money. We are looking for a certain $2 billion oil windfall under Babangida. Nobody has ever accounted for that. We are looking for a certain $16 billion that was sunk into electricity generation, power revamping under Obasanjo. Nobody talks about that. We are looking for how much that we put into Nigeria that nobody has accounted for. We are looking for how much billions, I think about $2 billion of security funds under Dasuki. And the other time, recently we were told about a certain, how much again?
Yeah, by the
it's so much.
attorney, well, I've forgotten.
Yeah, you can't remember all of them.
Because there are quite a lot.
It's huge.
This one is like few days ago, actually.
Yes, it's huge. So the stealing is huge. And you begin to ask, in all of this, when we mount the fact that, look, I'm coming in to fight corruption, where do we stand? Has any Nigerian leader been able to fight corruption? Right from Mr. Integrity himself. I mean, where we were told that when Buhari came, we were told that there's a new sheriff in town, and look, he brooks no nonsense. What happened under his watch? Or how about the Desiani loot and all of that? How about P.I.D.? So many questions unanswered in this country. So,
and there's also the allegation that most of the people affecting to APC right now is to avoid being persecuted by the EFCC or ICPC.
Well, the rumor is there, but you don't need to travel far to connect the dots. I mean, if they say like an old woman cried in the night and a young man died in the morning, what does that tell you? I can't put that correctly, but there's, that kind of saying, a witch cries at night and a young man dies in the morning. So if you're able to put all of these things, I mean, if you have a trade in a needle, you're able to sew all of these things and say, look, some people that think in that direction might not actually be wrong. Because you have seen people in government who, when they are under investigation, and with the moment that they come to a certain political party, we don't hear anything about it. And when it looks like they are trying to say, no, what you have done is not right, agencies call them and say, look, you have a case somewhere, so you better keep short. That is exactly what is happening. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we have reached a point in our lives as Nigerians that we also always need to tell ourselves the truth. These things are facts, even when we cannot point directly to them, but they happen in our present, so we can't shy away from them.
Let's go to the second topic for discussion, where the presidency, the Wike telling stakeholders at a meeting that presidency must be zoned to the south. The zoning, issue with Atiku emerging as the presidential candidate of the PDP was actually the genesis of. I mean, they've been having little fractures here and there, but Atiku emerging as the presidential candidate of PDP was kind of like what broke the camel back.
No, I don't agree with you. That was not a problem. Atiku's emergence wasn't the problem. What was the problem?
It was a problem because it was expected that it would be zoned to a southerner, not a northerner. And of course, Atiku was also accused of neglecting the party for a very long time, being in Dubai enjoying, and then when it was now time for the PDP convention, he came back to the party, paid off some people, and then he emerged as Wike fought tooth and nail until everything just started unraveling.
Exactly the point. Good. Atiku being in Dubai, that's his personal life. I'm not at liberty to comment on that, but I still insist that Atiku emerging as the presidential candidate of the PDP in 2023 wasn't the problem. The problem was Wike not emerging as the presidential candidate of the PDP. Okay. That was the problem, not Atiku's emergence. Because if you go back in history of what happened within that period, the PDP had actually said, look, we zone the ticket to the southeast, to the south and to the southeast. Yes. Wike said, no, you don't zone it to the southeast. You throw it open to the south. Let it be to the south. And Atiku Abubakar said, no. If you come to the southeast, the Southwest produced Olusegun Obasanjo in 1999, and in 2011 and 15, the South produced a good luck Ebele Jonathan. So isn't it natural justice that the ticket should go to the Southeast? And Wike said, no, it shouldn't. Let it go to the South. And Atiku said, look, if it doesn't go to the Southeast, then I'm in. That was how Atiku stepped into the fray. Okay. And so with Wike thinking that with his deep pockets, that he would be able to grab the ticket of the PDP. And when he didn't, he said no. That was when the whole problem started. Meanwhile, before then, he had removed Secondus He's kingsman from the national chairmanship because the party shouldn't produce both Southerners as national chairman and presidential candidate. So, but at that point, he had propped up Yoshia Ayu, thinking that when the ticket comes, he's going to grab it from the South, so it will be a balance. But that didn't happen. It was at that time that he started kicking that, look, you cannot produce the presidential candidate and at the same time produce the national chairman. So that's why I say that it was not Atiku.
Now the point is that there was already a fraction. There was already a fraction when Atiku emerged as, because if I remember correctly, it's those little cracks that made Peter Obi leave the PDP in the first place.
Okay.
It was those little cracks because some in the party were already thinking, how many times are we going to bring this man as presidential candidate of PDP when it's obvious? I mean, he doesn't have what it takes to win the whole Nigeria.
Says who?
Some of the party members were already groveling behind the scene. I mean, because
like they are still doing.
Exactly. But because of how strong Atiku is in the party, there were people.
How strong Atiku is in the party? Yeah, they were groveling that he couldn't win the elections. How many times did Buhari try?
How many
times did Buhari try? Solomon,
that's another question.
Peter Obi read the handwriting in the wall. So when Wike started playing, unfortunately, I blame a lot of people for what happened in PDP, including Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi, because when they lost the elections in 2015, PDP became more like nobody wanted to touch PDP with a very long pole.
Yeah,
it was Wike himself, with his deep pockets from River State, that started funding
managing the party.
So while funding the party, he was able to strategically, put his own people in very
different
important
places.
positions.
Yeah.
So that is why, up till today, it is difficult for the PDP
to
suspend Wike or to rein him in. But they allowed him to do that.
But the question, how long will they continue with that? Because it looks like Wike is neither here nor there.
Until they are able
while at the same time having a stronghold on the PDP.
Until they are able, other stakeholders, until they are able to muster funds and challenge Wike's hegemony within the PDP. What is happening will not end until Wike supervises the final death of PDP, because exactly that is what he's doing. That's what is happening.
So I guess another question is, what happened? What should we expect in the next primaries? Will they be looking at another Atiku? We do even know the position of Atiku, because we don't seem to hear anything associated with him with PDP. We've heard so many other rumors. We've not heard the fact if he's officially left the PDP. What's the dynamic there? What do you see happen?
What I see happen is that
because we've heard rumors on the side that he's trying to form a coalition, behind the scenes that will fight
exactly where
the APC. So right now we don't even know where he stands.
It will be a difficult call for Atiku Abubakar to survive in the PDP with the way things are going. His camp, is clearly on the marginal side of it.
At the moment,
Wike still holds sway, because talk about funding, he's still the one funding the PDP directly or indirectly. And apart from that, he also funded some of the PDP governors that are now defecting to the APC. So he still has them under his thumbs.
Okay.
Under his thumb. So if you put in all of this, and that is why Atiku is more vocal, is more focused on the coalition of a thing. Let me tell you what will happen before 2027, ahead of the general elections. If Atiku leaves, he's going to go with a chunk of the PDP with him.
In addition to the people that are already defected.
Already defected. So that will mean the final death of PDP. So, and it goes back to what I said. The only way they can resuscitate PDP is for whatever money bags they have within PDP. I don't know how much capacity Atiku has now. And I don't know who else can match Wike, because apart from his own personal deep pockets, you'll understand that the presidency is also helping him, to destroy the PDP further. So when he tells you that, look, the ticket of the PDP must come down south in 2027, that is clearly to tell you that
he is probably going to be the front runner.
He might not be. He might not be, because he's working with the president. He's targeting 2031.
Okay.
He's targeting 2031.
So
The possibility
what do
of that
we see?
is what I don't see. Because if he's targeting 2031, what happens to the North? And mind you, the North is also already firing, in all cylinders. No, we can't continue in this direction. So everything that Wike is doing is to prop up or to push up Tinubu in 2027.
Definitely.
So I'm not sure that Wike is disposed to taking a ticket against.
So, but
against
with the ultra mass defection in the PDP, do you see Wike defecting to the APC?
Defecting to the APC? He's already in the APC. So
True.
He's already in the APC. Unofficially. And he doesn't he doesn't mince words about it.
Yeah.
He says, look, I'm working for the president. So when he goes to say,
apparently he's playing both sides.
Yes. So when he says, let us revive PDP, what is he saying? Speaking from both sides of the mouth.
I'm just trying to imagine just how awkward the PDP meetings are when they see Wike walk in there, with his shoulders,
It is not awkward because the people that call the shots are his men. Sam Anyang is the national secretary as we speak. That is his man. Eli Adamagum, the national chairman, is his man Friday. So who else? Members of the National Working Committee, BOT is just advisory. They just make noise and go. In fact, the NEC, which is the highest decision-making organ of the party, is in Wike's pocket. So what else?
So in other words, probably the only party that can mount any form of challenge against President Tinubu and the PDP will probably be a coalition because, PDP is obviously, I don't want to call them a toothless bulldog. Right now, as you've alluded to, if Atiku leaves, take over the chunk of his holders, PDP is already ground zero.
It will be, with all sense of honesty and respect, it will be inappropriate to call PDP a bulldog, a toothless bulldog, because it's not even a bulldog. He's not even a bulldog.
That's even an insult to bulldogs.
Yes, the only thing that can survive now is not a coalition of political parties, but a coalition of Nigerians. A coalition of Nigerians.
How would that happen?
No. When I say that, I'm looking at it in terms of how can I put it now? I'm trying to look for a particular word in terms of a sense of urgency. They can't do that without a political party.
Yes,
so
definitely.
But when Nigerians are united as a people, they will find a viable platform, which is a political party, to drive their agenda, agenda to rescue Nigeria.
I think that almost became possible with the Labour Party, but right now the Labour Party has been serious disarray.
As we speak now, there's a relaunch of the Obedient Movement in Abuja. Are you aware? As we speak now, there's a relaunch of the Obedient Movement in Abuja, powered by Peter Obi, Alex Otti, Nonade Usman, Yunus Atanku, Aisha Yusufu, and a lot more other people. Don't forget about the portal
under what platform? Because
under the Obedient Movement.
Under what political party? Because the Labour Party doesn't exactly look like a viable platform.
No, they are not doing it under the platform or on the platform of the Labour Party. They are doing it as a movement.
But the movement will definitely have to be a political party.
Let me tell you,
if they want to mount any form of political challenge. Obedient movement can't be in isolation.
Let me tell you. Let's go back in history. If you go to Poland, there's a party they call I can't pronounce it, but it's the Solidarity Party. It was the party of the labor movement. That was pioneered by was it the one that? But he was very prominent. I'm talking about Lech Walesa, like we call it, but they call it Walensa. It was a solid non. It was more like a movement before it transformed into a political party. Yes. Like what also happened in Brazil under Lula Inácio da Silva. It was a labor movement that transformed into a political party. So the Obedient Movement that you see today, they are ready. That is why they have a portal. And they have said, look, Peter Obi, the visionary of this movement, anywhere you go, we follow you. So, peradventure, if Peter Obi decides to go into Solomon Chukwuma and Ada's party, then they dump the Obedient Movement there. That is it. It becomes their platform.
Okay, unfortunately, we have to go, which we can talk more. The political talk is becoming much more interesting, but we have to go. Thank you very much for coming
Thanks
on the
for
news
having
at
me,
12.
Solomon.
Chukuma Okoro, he's a broadcast journalist and a current affairs analyst.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure any day.
And now to our international scene. Britain's unemployment rate has reached the highest level since July 2021. Official data showed on Tuesday after businesses were hit by UK tax rise and US tariffs kicked in. The rate climbed to 4.6% in the 3 months or to the end of April, the official Office of National Statistics said. That compared to the 4.5% in the first quarter of the year, the ONS added. Tuesday's data covers the start of a hike in business tax laid out in the Labour government's inaugural budget last October. April also saw the beginning of a baseline 10% tariff imposed on the UK and other countries by US President Donald Trump. There continues to be weakening in the labor market and the number of people on payroll falling notably, said ONS Director of Economic Statistics Liz McCohen. Analysts said the data, which included slowing growth to wages, would likely see the Bank of England continue to cut interest rates into 2026, weighing on the pound but lifting London's stock market in early trade on Tuesday. The Bank of England also trimmed borrowing costs in May by a quarter point to 4.5%. And in sports, Greenland's application for membership of CONCACAF has been unanimously rejected. The world's largest island, which has never played competitive international football, has a population of 57,000 and is a sovereign territory, Denmark, but geographically part of North America. It is unable to join UEFA because the European governing body also only admits countries recognized by the United Nations. But there is no such requirement for CONCACAF, which governs North and Central America and the Caribbean. Greenland plays no FIFA sanctioned friendlies, non-FIFA sanctioned friendlies rather, but hopes of competitive international football for the first time were dashed at a meeting in Miami before the Gold Cup. The CONCACAF statement said, quote, based on a thorough assessment conducted by the CONCACAF Administration and Council and in accordance with the CONCACAF statutes, the member associations reviewed the membership application submitted by the Greenlandic Football Association and unanimously rejected it. And that's it. But before we go, here are the top stories again. No evidence Abacha stashed public funds abroad, Mariam Abacha insists. Presidency must be zoned to the South, Wike tells PDP stakeholders. Lagos alternative power boom exceeds national grid capacity, report says. FRC lauds FMC Abuja for taking action against alleged negligent staff members. Police confirm explosion killed 6 in Sokoto. On the international scene, UK employment rises to near 4-year high. And in sports, CONCACAF rejects Greenland membership application. And that's the World News at 12. My name is Solomon of Do follow our social media handles at VOP903FM. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, VOP903FM. Good afternoon and thanks for listening.
Thinking of owning